So I want to take a minute to tell you about our process because I'm really proud of this. And full disclaimer, this process wasn't created by me. We use Tom Hegna's process. Tom Hegna is thought of as one of the foremost authorities on retirement security and guaranteed lifetime income in the United States and certainly now the world. And he created this process, probably over 20 years ago now, and it's just simple, it's effective, but it works to optimize your retirement. So the process is really 2 steps. Number 1, we look to make sure you have enough guaranteed lifetime income to meet all your basic need for expenses in retirement so that you can have that security. So what counts as guaranteed lifetime income? That's going to be a pension, Social Security, or some form of an annuity. Now, if you have a shortfall between what you're going to get from Social Security and what you need to live your lifestyle, and you don't have a pension, that's where we use the lifetime income annuity because it's going to be a guaranteed stream of income payments that you're going to receive for the rest of your life, guaranteed by that insurance company, essentially performing the same function that Social Security is supposed to and a pension is supposed to. And the reason why guaranteed lifetime income is so important is because we don't know how long anyone's going to live. If we knew you were going to die tomorrow, we could go out and plan the greatest party tonight. This is, again, directly from Tom Hegna. But if you're going to live 30 or 40 years without a paycheck, we have to make sure that that income is going to be there to support you and then take care of all the other things that are going to come up, which we're going to get to in a second. Now, if you look back at America, people used to work for a corporation for 30 years, then they got a pension, and then they got a guaranteed stream of lifetime income for theirs and their spouse's life for as long as they lived. Now, what's really important about that is people didn't have any issues in retirement. My job didn't exist, and there was no need for planning for retirement income. It was already covered. The retirement plan was secure through this form of a pension. It was a guaranteed stream of lifetime income. Well, what happened in America? In the late 80s, early 90s, corporations figured out it was much cheaper to match a 401k contribution for the employees that even contribute than provide a guaranteed stream of lifetime income for as long as you live and your spouse. They got rid of those liabilities. They moved to a profit sharing plan, which essentially is where you can make a defined contribution into a 401k. And that 401k, you fast forward 40 years from there to today, now we have what's called the baby boomer dilemma. We have what's called a retirement crisis. People are desperately looking for this education because you handed over retirement savings to people with no financial training. You didn't tell them how much to put away, what they should invest in, when they should rebalance, what type of 401k they should have. They should have traditional or Roth. And so now you're winding up with all these people who don't have enough money, and it's a significant problem. In fact, the average household savings for a 401k in the United States is approximately at $197,000. Now, 50% of America arrives to death and retirement with less than 25 grand. So you can see that obviously we're having a pretty failed experiment right in front of us, and we're trying to get this information out that if we want to fix the problem, we got to go back to what fixed it originally. The proof is that it worked before we broke it. Guaranteed lifetime income is the optimal way to help most Americans retire. That's very important. So if we can get there with step 1, what's step number 2? Well, step number 2 is all we do is remove the risks that could surround that income. And the risks are the same for everybody. What happens if we have inflation like you're seeing today? What happens if there's deflation? What happens if there's too much risk for interest rates moving up or down? What happens if there's too much market volatility risk? What happens if you outlive your money? We took care of that with step number 1. What happens if you need long-term care? What happens if taxes go up? And what happens if one spouse predeceases the other? Now, there's also a sequence of return risk and sequence of withdrawal risk, but we're hoping that we took care of that with step number 1. So sequence of return risk is basically the order in which you get your returns, and sequence of withdrawals is the order in which you take out your money from retirement. If you use an annuity, it's going to solve both those 2 risks to cover your income because that guaranteed lifetime income will optimize those withdrawals, and it gives you protection so you don't need to worry about the rest of your money. So those 2 risks are going to be inherently removed. But let's talk about some of these other risks, okay? Long-term care is one of the most challenging ones to plan for. And in fact, it's one of the closest ones to my heart because my own grandmother needed $1 million. She had skilled nursing for 8 years before she passed. So I've seen the effects of the cost of long-term care on a family. Now, fortunately, my grandpa and grandma had saved that up for their retirement, but it significantly diminished the amount that they intended to leave to their 3 children, one of them being my father. So that's long-term care risk is really important because, again, go back to our illustration. Let's say you live 30 years, you got to support yourself with no paycheck, and then you have the biggest expenses you've ever had in your entire life right at the very end. Very challenging prospect to handle. What happens if taxes go up? If taxes go up and all your money's in taxable income, then your income goes down and there's nothing you can do about it. So tax diversification is a very important tool. We bring in CPAs, tax attorneys, the right professionals to come in and recommend strategies so that people can be proactive and not be trapped just paying those higher taxes if they go up. Inflation is a huge problem for people on a fixed income. If you have a fixed income and you have inflation, you're losing purchasing power, your standard of living is decreasing. That's why it's important to have a plan to deal with inflation and to have guaranteed lifetime income that is increasing in retirement. So having more than one lifetime income annuity that can kick on in different phases is crucial to being able to deal with inflation, as we've seen today. So that's a huge problem. If one spouse predeceases the other, you have several problems that occur. Number one, depending on the income choices you selected, those could change drastically. If you chose the pension option, if you chose the annuity option that was straight life or just on the beneficiary and doesn't carry over for the spouse, then that could be a significant drop in lifestyle and earnings. Social Security, the lower of the two benefits, is going to go away. Now that they're a single filer, their taxes go up. So it's called the widow's tax trap. So again, this is really important to make sure we have a plan for the economic impact of losing your spouse, because oftentimes, if your income is going to decrease by 50% or more, that could be very devastating for your lifestyle and retirement. We don't want that to happen to the surviving spouse, right? So we go through these key risks and we systematically remove them. Now, what is risk? Risk is just the probability that something can go wrong. And if Murphy's Law taught us anything, what can go wrong probably will go wrong. So if we can just remove those key risks, the probability of portfolio failure goes to zero. And that's why it's the optimal way to deal for your retirement. Now, with the rest of the funds, those are a great time to take calculated risks and build wealth in retirement and hedge inflation and all the things that are very important that you want your assets to grow for. But just having everything in the growth mindset like we've been taught our whole lives, and again, I'm not talking about the growth mindset. The growth mindset's important, but having everything in the growth allocation is the proper word. Just saying, okay, well, we'll put this all in the market and then we're going to take withdrawals off the top or based on what it earns or based on principal and withdrawals, and trying to create some calculation that optimizes your life expectancy when you don't know what that is mathematically not optimal, and oftentimes creates too much risk. And what's even more sad is it doesn't help you to protect from the risk of underspending. I read a great book recently called Die with Zero. And the premise of the book was that if you have excess money, those are hours of labor that you put in that are wasted. So it's like, would you work an extra, maybe 5,000 hours just to have money that you didn't even need or intend to use at all? What's the purpose of that? Why is that optimal? So again, when you can bring in companies like insurance companies that are built to transfer these risks away, and then you can spend more intentionally, it creates a more fulfilling retirement. We find that we're able to help our clients stay in the abundance mindset, because what I view my job is eliminating scarcity and fear. Scarcity mindset creeps in when you get into retirement because there's this massive shift that happens in a day. You've been one way your whole life, money's flowing through your job, it's easy to be abundant and have fun and enjoy. The day that money flow stops, it's very easy for scarcity to come in and shrink the way you think about how you show up in the world. So you're going to start to have this tug of war inside of you saying, okay, well, should we spend that or should we save it? We might need it. And what happens is if you put off that satisfaction for long enough, you end up living what Tom calls a just-in-case retirement. You don't take the trip because you might need the money for long-term care, so you put it off just in case. You don't go visit the grandkids at their graduation because you might need that money, so you put it off just in case. You don't take your kids out and do the family cruise because you might need that money, so you put it away just in case. And you do this for too long, the best years of retirement are the earliest years. So we want to create a plan that's going to give you the lifetime income and all the security and peace of mind early, so you can spend confidently in those good years and enjoy the rest of your retirement. And that's our process that we're really proud of, to help our clients to not only have optimal retirements, but to show up as their best selves. My personal mission is to help people realize their purpose in retirement, because it's such a special season where now you can do all these things that you weren't able to do before because you financially have set yourself up to be able to have that freedom. And that's what we want to help encourage all of our clients to experience.